with the Power One Capital Group based in Toronto. We're a merchant bank. We've been investing in financing mining exploration for over 20 years now. We've been very fortunate to have been involved with many very successful companies, taking them right from grassroots discovery through to acquisitions by major mining companies. And many of these are now mines in some of the most interesting places in the world. And it's really rewarding to see what the fruits of our labor can produce for not only financially for shareholders, but just for stakeholders. And that's a big thing for us. We want to make sure everyone's benefiting equally. This project here was brought to us a few years ago by Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan, as you may or may not know, is a notorious prospector. He grew up in the Timmins camp, took his skills to the Klondike district of the Yukon. This is where our project's based. This is the epicenter of the Klondike gold rush 125 years ago, since when over 20 million ounces of placer gold have been mined from the surface of this area. Remarkably, it saw next to no modern day exploration since that time until Sean got there. And you probably want to know why, and so did we. And the reason was this area of Canada, believe it or not, was not glaciated. So the typical prospecting tool for most people is looking at outcrop, just wasn't available, and I guess people went to look other places. Sean, he's a great scientist, researcher. He looked into what has been successful in finding mineralized systems globally, and he was able to tune into various soil geochemistry, which was his pathfinding gold finder, and he was incredibly successful using that to make two major multi-million ounce discoveries, one of which is 2+ million ounces owned by Newmont. It's the Coffee deposit. The other one's the Golden Saddle deposit, which we own in White Gold. At that time, and prior to the discovery, fortunately, he was also able to tie up an incredibly large land package in this area, which is also in White Gold. So White Gold, as a company today, we now boast a very significant gold resource of 2.3+ million ounces at about 1.8 grams per ton. That is the 5th highest grade open pit deposit in Canada owned by a junior. We think it's an amazing project that will be very robust economically. We haven't done a PEA yet, but looking at what we see, we're very encouraged by the metallurgy and the other elements that go into making a mine work. That deposit is open for expansion in many, many different directions, and we think there's a lot of growth to come. So if you're looking for some meat and potatoes, this kind of is a bit of an overview. We certainly have that, but I know a lot of people in this conference, and myself included, we are in it for the grassroots discovery, and we've been very successful on that side of the business as well. We have an incredibly large pipeline. We've made several new discoveries in the last couple of years, which I will talk about, and we've built up one of the most robust discovery pipelines in Canada, and not only in the gold sector. You know, a lot of the focus lately has been on the critical minerals, and I'm going to touch on that, not because it's topical. We've been looking into that for a number of years, and our land package, which you'll see right here next, is strategically located from the north, which was the historic Klondike goldfields, down to the south, where Newmont has their large coffee deposit, and also to the south, our other neighbor is Western Copper and Gold, who I presume a lot of you may know. If you don't, that has one of Canada's largest undeveloped critical mineral projects, 20 million ounces of gold, 14 billion pounds of copper. We are a neighbor to that, and we also have many targets which we think are similar to the casino. So we really have a lot going on in this company. Sometimes that's a bit of a double-edged sword, but I think from an investor's perspective, you really get a lot of opportunity and a lot of upside, and we like that. Now, strategically, we have some ideas, which I'll get into, but just going back, one other thing I should mention, which is very important, the uniqueness of this company. We've been doing this for a long time at Power One. You want to sort of, try to understand what's going to optimize your success. We've developed a bit of a protocol, checking the boxes, as it were, what leads to the prospect or the best prospects for success. This company's really checked all the boxes: jurisdiction, commodity, success. We've really been able to execute on all those different areas. And that has allowed us, in my opinion, to bring in two of the best mining companies in the world as major partners, one being Agnico, the other being Kinross, and they sort of view us as their Yukon exploration arm. The Yukon has been very underexplored in general, especially as you compare it to Alaska and British Columbia. We've all seen all the success that happens there. More recently, the Yukon has seen more work, and not surprisingly, it's seen a lot of success. So I think the Yukon is one of the most prolific emerging mining camps in Canada, and we're going to see a lot of value and a lot of new discovery come out of there in the years to come. So just quickly here, I don't want to keep everyone too long. Here's a little bit about our deposit. In my view, grade and metallurgy are king. We have that. Also upside potential. This deposit is based over 4 zones of mineralization. In the last couple of years, instead of just delineating our core deposit, which is about 1 million ounces at around 3 grams, we've been looking for new zones of mineralization in a close proximity. The best place to find more gold is near existing gold zones, and we've done that. So we've highlighted 4 more zones, and we've highlighted another trend which is largely untested. It's 6 kilometers long. It's only 1.5 kilometers from our flagship deposit. Started doing a little bit of work on that, have been tremendously successful, finding lots of good grade gold. So we are really optimistic on the prospectivity of this area to allow us to keep on growing the size of our flagship deposit. That's called the Ryan's Trend, named after our founder, Sean Ryan. And just north of the river, we have another small deposit called the VG deposit. We've done some work there, very exciting results, and this is going to be an area we'll focus on next year for sure. You sort of see our deposit here, comes right to surface. It is open in 3 directions, so lots of work to be done, and we're going to continue to, add on the ounces here as we go forward. Strategically, what's next, you might ask? Are we going to build this? Are we going to sell it? We don't know yet. We're explorationists, and we've been getting a lot of interest from our partners and other companies in an asset like this. Because of the characteristics that I mentioned before, it's certainly on a lot of people's radar. This thing needs to be a mine. It's been discovered, and a lot of work's been done to it. But fundamentally, we're just going to do whatever works the best for shareholders. I should have mentioned the other largest shareholder group is ourselves and Sean Ryan. So as a management team, we are 100% aligned with shareholders. That's the meat and potatoes. I'll get into the sizzle here. This is one of our properties. We have a number of them. I'll just touch on a few. It's called the QV property. It's about 10 kilometers north of our flagship deposit. We identified there a soil anomaly over 2 kilometers long. It is the largest and most highly intense soil anomaly we've ever defined on our package. Very happy with what we saw there. We've done some surface work. We're able to do a very limited amount of drilling last year, just before the season closed. Interesting what we've seen. Those results are forthcoming, but we are very, very encouraged by this just because it is extremely similar to what we saw on the Golden Saddle, our flagship deposit. So, that's the dream case scenario. You find one, you crack the code, you know how to sort of start finding more of these, and once that happens, you should be able to accelerate the discovery process. And we're really optimistic that this could be another big new discovery for us. This is the long soil anomaly I mentioned, 2 kilometers, highly intense. And here's a little bit of a zoom in onto the anomaly itself. It's called the Chris Creek anomaly. This is actually only one of several on that property. This is the one we were able to get to last year. We're going to do more work this year, as well as more work on some of these other targets, in addition to looking for more. It is really amazing to me how much mineralization there is in this part of the Yukon. Almost everywhere we look, we find some. And I really do think owning a land package like this today is like owning, which is 300,000 plus hectares, is like owning that kind of land in Timmins or Val-d'Or 100 years ago. And the opportunity to do that is, to me, almost unheard of. To go back, to find a package that big in a great jurisdiction like this with so much prospectivity. So this is a big part of why it is we're so excited, and we really think there's decades of exploration work to happen here, and the goal would be to have success, sell the assets, put them in production, whatever it is, but really be able to generate a tremendous amount of value, something equivalent to if we had owned this much land in one of these other camps 100 years ago. And that's, I don't know, put the number, multi-tens of billions of dollars, I'm sure. I touched on some of the critical mineral stuff, so just we have a lot going on: copper, molybdenum, bismuth, antimony, zinc. This is probably the most advanced of what we have so far on the Pedler and Hayes properties. It's right along the sort of zinc belt that we have in this west central Yukon. A number of other significant copper discoveries have been made. The casino is by far the largest. We are in their shadows. For those that understand how porphyry systems work, they happen in clusters. We're very optimistic about the probability of finding more types of deposits similar to the casino. So a lot of similarities, very little work's been done. So we're really excited to do this. Strategically as a company, one thing that we are evaluating is whether they should all stay together under one umbrella or if we should separate our critical mineral assets out of it. We're leaning towards the latter. So as a shareholder, you would effectively have all the exposure to the gold, which, as I'm sure you've heard many times here today, the junior gold companies are the lowest value they've been ever with respect to the commodity price. I'm not here to give financial guidance, but what we've seen in the past, what I'm pretty optimistic about is the value that's been increased with the commodity start to trickle down, through the different parts of the sector. We've seen it in the majors, we've seen it in the mid-tier producers. We're starting to see it into some of the larger exploration companies, and the next phase should be in the smaller exploration companies. So hopefully we all as a sector get a big re-rating here. So I think it makes sense. You get 2 for 1, and we'll get the value in the gold and then this value in all the critical mineral stuff that hasn't been reflected whatsoever in our share price. So thank you very much. Our booth is just around the corner. Come see me anytime. Very, very exciting company. We are extremely optimistic about the prospects going forward here. Thank you.